We are talking about solving absolute value equations and inequalities. We're going to want to evaluate expressions involving absolute value, solve absolute value equations, and solve absolute value inequalities. The absolute value of a number is its distance from zero on the number line. Since distance is non-negative, the absolute value of a number is always positive. So when we look here, we see that we have two equations written down. We have the absolute value can never equal a negative value there. Absolute value always has to equal some positive value a, or it can also be equal to zero. So we have the symbol for the absolute value is an expression or a number or a variable with the two bars around it. So because when we're graphing, absolute value cannot be negative, if we said the absolute value of x, so absolute value of x is right here, absolute value of 1 is 1, absolute value of 2 is 2. So we have this side of the graph is going to keep going up like that. So over here we have the absolute value of -1, so the y value is 1. So this, and then we have the absolute value of -2, absolute value of -2 is 2. So this graph right here is the function or the graph y equals the absolute value of x. So that's what that graph represents right there. The domain of this function, we can see that this arrow here, this is going all the way to -infinity, and this graph over here goes all the way to +infinity in the x direction. And remember, domain is the x values. So this goes to -infinity. In this direction, this goes to +infinity. And so our domain in this case is from -infinity to +infinity, or we can say all real numbers. The next one is our range. And for our range in this case, range is the y values. So we got to think about, is there any y values down here? No, our smallest y value is here, and that is 0. So our smallest y value is 0, and then it's going to just go up from there. The y portion of this arrow shows that this goes up to +infinity, and the same thing on this side. This arrow also shows that it goes up to +infinity. So our range for this one is from 0 to infinity. But the 0 is included, so we should put a bracket on that. Infinity is never included, but in this case we can include 0 in the absolute value function, so we'll put a bracket on the 0.